Hello. Welcome to the podcast, Human Rights in America, a Revolutionary Mindset. I am your host, Sue Young. This is episode 18. So what's on my mind? Like the leftovers from Thanksgiving meal, I'm thinking about the leftover DEI information that I want to share. You see, I was talking to my other cousin, Kelly, about why I chose to talk about DEI. I told her that I wasn't jumping on the bandwagon, the DEI bandwagon. Rather, I remembered my roots. Law school, 2001 or 2002, I can't remember which. It was springtime. Me and my two classmates created Diversity Awareness Week. As I was the only Black student during the day program at this time, our focus was not on race, rather, diversity in every other aspect: sexual orientation, age, political thought. Yes, even back then it was Republican and Democrats and everything else you can imagine. You see, I wanted to give something to my classmates, a heads up that the world outside of the walls of our world of law school was full of difference. I mean, after all, these were the future defenders of the environment, of civil rights, future judges, and creators of law. I wanted them to see the diversity of our world. We held forums all week long. Me, I only wanted it to be a day, but we stressed it out. We did it. And as a result, I was given an award for the most innovative law school program. In fact, the school adopted and embraced this program for years after I graduated. So, yes, that's where episodes 13, 14, and 16 come from. Not from a bandwagon, but rather a memory, a prior experience. So thanks, Kelly. For this week, I actually wanted to learn something new. Let's talk about immigration, deportation, and the 13th Amendment. Wow. I need a constitutional lawyer to weigh in. So if one is out there listening to the program, give me a comment, drop me a line at hrinamerica@gmail.com. And because this is Human Rights Podcast, let's remember Articles 29 and Article 30 of the UN Declaration. Article 29 states, we have a duty to other people, and we should protect their rights and freedoms. Article 30 says, nothing in the Declaration may be interpreted as implying that any state, group, or person has any right to engage in any activity or to perform any act aimed at the destruction of the rights and freedoms set forth. I asked multiple AI searching for the number of the amount of illegal immigrants in this country. The average is about 11.7 million. Studies have shown that 40 million foreign-born residents live in the U.S. 11.7 million of that population is illegal. But the number may be as high as 13 million now because that 11.7 million may be from 2023. I'm not sure. So, like any beginner researcher, I read about the U.S. immigration laws leading up to today. Long story short, the U.S. has always favored, on paper, special deals, etc. But we've always seemed to have mixed good old American preference, racism, and anti-certain groups. during the immigration process. You can do your own research and let me know. For further reading, you can read White by Law, The Legal Construction of Race, a book by Ian Lopez. I'm going to give you a lot of numbers, but this program is not about numbers. It's about us. The Pew Research Center, September 2024, indicates in 1970, the number of immigrants living in the U.S. was about a fifth of what it is today. Growth of this population accelerated after Congress made changes to the immigration laws in 1965. Immigrants today account for 14.3% of the U.S. population. Mexico is the top country of birth of immigrants. In 2022, roughly 10.6 million immigrants living in the U.S. were born in Mexico, making up 23% of all U.S. immigrants. The next largest group of immigrants is from India, then China, the Philippines, followed by El Salvador. There has been a change in immigration since the 1800s. From 1840 to 1889, about 90% of the immigrants came from Europe, including 70% from Germany, Ireland, and the United Kingdom. The newest wave of immigrants have dramatically changed our state's populations. In 1980, German immigrants were the largest group in 19 states. Canadian immigrants were the highest in 11 states, and Mexicans were the largest group in 10 states. But by 2000, Mexicans were the largest group in 31 states. Today, Mexico remains the largest origin country for U.S. immigrants. However, immigration from Mexico has slowed. The Mexican share of the U.S. immigration population dropped from 29% in 2010 to 23% in 2022. Most immigrants are in the country legally. As of 2022, 49% were naturalized U.S. citizens, 24% were lawful permanent residents, 4% were legal temporary residents, and 23% were unauthorized immigrants. As I said, I am not really sure which number is correct. So, where do most immigrants live? In 2022, most of the nation's 46.1 million immigrants lived in 4 states: California, Texas, Florida, and New York. The reason I'm bringing all of this up is that I'm concerned with who we will become as we watch the mass deportation, the corralling of all these people, the division of them and us. First, I'll say that nothing will be immediate. Our court systems, already backlogged, will become inundated with new cases. There will be a cost for us associated with holding on to the rounded up illegal immigrants until their cases can be tried. Well, one way to avoid tanking our economy is by imprisoning the illegal immigrants, then using the 13th Amendment, the amendment that freed the slaves, except for punishment for crime when there is a conviction. That's what our Constitution still says. It still makes for this exception. Wow, maybe an answer. Hold the illegal immigrants in private prisons until they're convicted, maybe force them to work, make a profit, and then we'll see if they ever get deported. That's why we have mass incarceration of Black men in prison. Someone at a recent conference asked me, what exactly is mass incarceration? Well, I did my own little study, and if Black people make up 13% of the U.S. population, and 50% of those can be men, I say, well, Black men make up about 5%, 5.7% of the population, yet they are 37% of the prison population. That's 6 times the amount. Overrepresentation, mass incarceration. But I digress. That's not really what I want to talk about. So I'm going to go back to immigration, the threat of deportation, and the possible use of the 13th Amendment to add the illegals to our working class. Just a wild science fiction theory, no worse than the belief that we're going to somehow put all these illegal immigrants on a ship and get them out of the country. Because where are they going to go? Well, I was in New York City after 9/11 when the U.S. targeted Muslims. But not all Muslims, just the bad ones, right? And of course, we'll know the good from the bad. Then why were Sikh Indians being attacked? Oh, some people thought, but they look like Muslims. So I wonder, who will we become as we watch the process? You know, kind of like the crowds that watched the public hangings, lynchings, and slave beatings. Who was the victim? I'd argue that all are affected when we watch inhumane events, like putting children in cages and separating them from their parents. When we look the other way, we think, well, the ends justify the means. Remember our humanity in the midst of this. Why not rethink of what to do with excess people? I just know that when people turn their heads and avoid looking at the harsh reality of inhumane acts of rounding them up, figuring out who's legal and who's not, I think it's similar to what must have happened in Germany and in the South. We just looked the other way when they marched the chained, naked slaves to market or gathered the Jews in the plaza because it's not us, but it is us. How we end up treating illegal immigrants will become a reflection of who we are as Americans. Not as Republicans or as Democrats, as Americans. Illegal, legal, natural born. We are all human. Our humanity isn't based on the status of our citizenship. We're human. Further, I asked the AI searches if deportation of the illegal immigrants would solve the border crisis. You see, Americans blame illegal immigrants from doing work for less. But why do we hate them and not the companies that use illegal immigrants as workers? The construction companies, the hospitality industries, and service industries throughout the country. I don't know. The fantasy of mass deportation sounds like a speedy solution, but we know the wheels of justice turn slow. If we allow for the elimination of rights for one group of people for this one event, what's to stop the government from choosing to eliminate your right for whatever reason for the next time? Plus, shouldn't we be the defenders of rights for all humans? So, if any of this comes to pass, it will be a test of our democratic society and belief in what kind of humans we are. It's kind of like a sci fi movie, watching the slow erosion of our democratic processes and humanity. But we're talking about them, not us, right? How do we decide? If you haven't read Animal Farm in a while, it just might be a good time to reread this novel. The quote by Thomas Jefferson: "When injustice becomes a law, resistance becomes a duty. How will you resist?" Until next time, be revolutionary, be human.